And it is amazing, is it not, just how quickly mental health is not like taboo anymore. Like it's just like, I never, ever, ever felt pressure not to talk about it. Like I never had that, oh, I don't
Mm.
want people to know that I have this stuff. I'm like, hey man, I got this stuff. You know anything? I was detective from the minute I got diagnosed. I was the detective, because when you start losing faculty, you lose that bullshit ego, that silly ego that doesn't serve, right? Like I need to be the student, right? Like I got it really clearly, like, oh shit, I'm getting brain fail and I know nothing about my brain. So I need to become a freaking doctor, even though I won't have the sheepskin. Um,
Well, and honestly, that's the best approach is to not hide it and not pretend it's not there, but to just start asking as many people and to get those little clues here and there. What can I do next? Who can I talk to? Who can help me? And so that's, I think, the right approach.
yeah, I agree. I agree. Because, this person might know 10 people who can, and maybe 3 out of those 10 will really help you and point you over here. And it's funny, just like we were talking about with you forget who introduced who to who. All of these long threads can say, oh, now how did I learn about methylene blue? How did I learn about the cold plunging? And that was, maybe someone else who was talking about infrared at the time. And then the cold plunging came up. It's just, the beauty of it, brain shit sucks. Sorry, 2 swears in 1 sentence there. I apologize. Brain stuff is horrible, but you do meet tribe, right? You meet family, and we all become family, and we all, hey, what do you got? What's the latest? There's some really cool stuff out there, man. Fascinating stuff.
It is. And honestly, that's why I've absolutely loved doing my podcast because it allows me to talk to people who are doing cutting edge research and on the front lines of treating concussions. And everybody has their own piece of the pie, their own angle, their own perspective, their own knowledge base. And so to be able to talk to people around the world and get more information about what they're doing has just been such a gift.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, should we kick this off?
Yep. You're the pro.
All right. Jordan J. Adams, welcome to Life After Impact.
Thank you, Dr. Ayla.
Yes, you are the founder and CEO of United Fight Alliance and an Emmy Award-winning commentator and recognized voice in combat sports. And you yourself have had a number of concussions. And so I would love to talk to you about your own personal story and then also how you've seen combat sports evolve over the years in terms of being more aware of concussions, brain health, and long-term consequences.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you. You know, it's interesting how has combat sports evolved around head trauma. My initial hit on that one is the knowledge has definitely evolved, the knowledge of it. But the protocols, I'm not sure I'm seeing any kind of immediate attention. The fight when a fighter, God forbid, does pick up some trauma in a fight and even worse, gets knocked out. Yeah, they get the flashlights in the eyes. They put them on the stretcher, I guess, when they take them out of the cage, to protect the neck and any kind of spinal injuries. But are they doing some of the protocols that you and I know about that are so important to do really quickly after a brain trauma? I'm not sure they are. I'm not sure they are because from what I've seen behind the scenes, it's still pretty allopathic and it's still pretty 15 or 20 years ago in terms of the science. I know how much you're on the cutting edge for neurology, and I'm just a hobbyist because I'm trying to save my own brain. I have absolutely no medical background, but I've been doing a lot of research. And, when you and I were talking before we went on, I was saying, I feel like I'm pretty close to, like if all of the things I was doing were tests and had college accreditation, I might be pretty close to, having a degree in medicine just because it's been 10, 15 years of, you get really serious when you get a diagnosis, you start working hard. And you realize, wow, I have a brain injury and I don't know anything about my brain, and it just like it really brings things into focus when it's you. When a neurologist looks you in the eyes and says it's not good, that like, that you hate hearing that. Um, but what it does do is it brings things into focus and it shortens time. You realize, oh wow, I have a limited amount of time and I need to, get my stuff together here. So the long-winded answer to your very short and simple question, the only evolution I've seen is in the knowledge of how dangerous combat sports are for the brain. But I haven't seen a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. I have not seen it. And I work pretty close with state athletic regulatory bodies and with their medical teams because, we're setting up the shows together. And so, I see what they do before and I see what they do after. We need a lot of work in our protocols in combat sports.
Yeah, and I think that's true for many sports is that the awareness is there, the knowledge is there, but then when it does happen, maybe people are now more likely to at least go to urgent care and get a brain scan or at least talk to somebody to figure out if they need a brain scan. But then after that, it does all fall apart. And some of the literature is saying too that I think like 55% of people that are told, hey, you need to follow up with your doctor after this ER visit, they actually don't. And so I think that things break down, people just expect that their brain will hopefully get better. And then when it doesn't, now they're already 1, 2, 3 months down the road. And then they have to figure out, well, now what do I do or who do I see? And it's very disjointed. It's very disjointed.
Yeah, and I might back up a little bit on what I said earlier. There are some protocols now during the fight. The referees are much more aware of certain questions to ask and certain mobility issues to test with the fighters. So you see them grab their wrists and sort of pull them, see if they pull off balance and their balance
Mm,
isn't there,
mm.
or they'll step back and say, "Walk to me," and they'll watch their gait. So there have been some evolutions in the space during the event itself. And then, with the types of questions the referees ask the fighter are definitely more educated than they were even 5 years ago. So there has been some evolution in the space during the event. I think what I was referring to with no evolution is afterwards, right there. I've heard there are some protocols that you can't even tell the next day that that fighter suffered a concussion the day before. It's that type of a difference in outcomes if you get to them quickly. But I hope we touch upon that because I want to get educated about if there's things I'm not doing at the end of our fights that really need to be done.
Mhm. And are you seeing, I mean, you follow fighters throughout their careers, and are you able to sit back and just see changes in people in terms of their reaction time as a fighter, their personality, how they interact with you post-fight? I mean, I used to be the team acupuncturist for a lot of the UFC and legacy fighters, and so when
Wow.
I would talk to
Oh my
them,
gosh.
nicest guys on the planet, right?
Mhm.
But during a conversation, they might ask me the exact same question, like, "Hey, how was your trip?" 3 times in a
Mm.
3-minute conversation. And so as somebody, who's already looking at I'm paying attention to brain function, just in my day-to-day interactions, I would see these signs of short-term memory problems and working memory problems.
Mm. Yeah, there's a lot of famous fighters actually. And we won't mention names because some of them are public and some of them aren't, who are in real trouble and they know it and they're asking for help. Um, it wasn't even that long ago that the number one MMA promotion in the world wasn't even giving insurance. That they almost had to be shamed into that. They're fully insured now, I'm happy to say, and so they can get the help they want if they need it. Even there was also a class action suit that the fighters won, and they got a lot of their money back. So they do a lot of these fighters who are having neurological issues now have some money to hopefully utilize in their struggle to recover. And, yeah, I do see that. I had a conversation with an ultra famous boxer from the 80s and 90s recently. It was on the phone, and we could not, I could not tell what he was saying. And it was so slurred. I don't know what part of the brain that damages when the verbal skills become slurred.
Well,
Um,
the tongue is a muscle, and the cerebellum controls the tongue and coordinates tongue movements just like it does with our arms and legs.
wow. Wow. Yeah, and that's and it was heartbreaking because he was one of those, it was very similar to Ali, you know. It's extra heartbreaking when someone was so amazingly articulate in their prime, and this fighter it was a heavyweight, fighter, very similar to Ali, and he was a great trash talker and really knew how to help the promoter promote the fight, and, uh and now you can't understand him. And that's gotta be amazingly frustrating for him trying to communicate with people. You're trying to say something and you think you're saying it, and it's not coming out the way you think it's supposed to. You're hearing it in your head, but what's coming out is not that. You can see the confusion on people's faces. It's real serious, like, I'm not taking it lightly, I'm in the early stages, and I with some of my biohacks, I feel like I've slowed it down to almost 0 and maybe even making it go in the other direction, going backwards, which is really great. But,
Yeah,
as Dale
amazing.
Bredesen said, that famous doctor from UCLA said, "You have 52 holes in your roof," right? When you have neurological issues, it's not just one thing. It's not one thing that's gonna fix it. You have to do everything, and you have to do it in conjunction, and the good news is it's synergistic. So that's why it's so important to do all of these different protocols, anything you can do.
And I think that is a really good analogy for people because in our kind of Western model, people are used to, I have one issue, I get prescribed one medication, or like, people are used to this kind of like 1-to-1 ratio of things. And so we really, when it comes to the brain, it's the most complex part of our body. And yes, if you've got 50 holes in your roof and you only patch up 5 of them, you still have a leaky roof. And so I think for some people, obviously, when you have a brain injury, it becomes overwhelming to have to go after the 50 different holes and figure that out. And many people are trying to cobble together their own treatment plan based on going to what sometimes feels like 50 different doctors to try to get each of those pieces of the puzzle. And it can be so confusing for people to just navigate all of that with a brain injury.
I know. I know that's the biggest irony is the time where you're most gonna need your brain is the time when your brain is failing you. And that's the
Yes.
irony. And I had that revelation when I was first diagnosed. I realized, "Whoa, my brain is failing and I don't know anything about my brain." I realized, "Oh, the irony is it's gonna be my brain that saves my brain. It's coming to its own rescue." Right? And you got to do the things, but you got to give it everything it needs. And it does respond. That's the good news. I have like 5 or 6 biohacks that have really moved the needle for me. I have lots of stuff I did that I never noticed any difference. And whenever there was a non noticing, because time is so important and because you only have so much time to implement these. I mean, you have to work and raise a family, and like you only have so much time to implement these protocols. So time is of the essence. So when I have a protocol that doesn't do anything for me, I drop it real fast and I keep narrowing down. Okay, if this works, that gets put into the rotation, and it's all daily rotation. If this works, it gets put in, and I'll figure out a way to do it all. But I have to get up so early because I have so many different things I have to get done before I start working, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
But it's worth it though.
Well, tell me a little bit about your past and how you got your concussions.
Yeah, so it's funny being in the fight space. I was a martial artist, and you would think, okay, well, he was a martial artist. That's where he got his brain stuff. But no, it was just a series of unfortunate accidents and coincidences. I had a motorcycle accident. Thank God I had a helmet on, but I still got banged around. I had a pool diving accident where I dove into a shallow pool. And but I am not complaining about picking up a concussion on that one when you think of what could have happened diving into a shallow pool. So I was never saying, "Oh, I can't believe it. Oh, this is so unfair." I'm like, "No, no, no, no. This is fair. I'll take the concussion." So that pool one was really bad. That put me in the hospital for almost 3 weeks. I was in chronic pain. Really, I really damaged my brain. I was in really bad pain. I After I had the pool diving accident, I was underwater, unconscious, and then when I came to, I started swimming toward the deep end, thinking I was
No.
going thinking I was
Mhm.
going up, but I was going down,
Mm.
and I couldn't
Mm.
figure out why I was going so fast. Why am I not getting to the surface? Why am I not getting to the surface? I was so disoriented. And when I finally figured it out, I was already out of air when I figured it out, but somehow I made it to the top. So that was that accident. Then I was in artillery in the military, so I had lots of loud. Back when I was in, we didn't even wear hearing protection, and I'm probably gonna get yelled at by my drill sergeant for confessing that one, but we didn't in the 70s and 80s, we didn't wear hearing protection. So that I'm sure that was, the headaches I got from that and the ear ringing and all that, I'm sure that wasn't good. So I think what it was, Dr. Ayla, was a perfect storm. So lots of concussions, the military didn't help clearly. And then also hereditary. My mom died of Alzheimer's. So I don't know if I have the ApoE4. I haven't not wanted to know that. I don't know if I do have that or not. But there's lots of things in the brain fog space that make me not need to know that. I'm just acting as if, right? And I'm just
Mm. Mhm.
acting as if and doing every possible thing I can do to slow it down and to hopefully go the other direction. And I feel from what I've been reading and studying in the last 2 years, it is absolutely entirely possible to go the other direction, to heal and I guess through angiogenesis or BDNF, making more brain tissue. Neurogenesis, thank you. Neurogenesis. And I don't know what that you'll have to give us the definition of that, but as I understand it, it's growing new brain tissue, more oxygen, more blood, but I love the growing new brain tissue. That sounds very promising to me.
Yeah, I think that was such an important discovery because back in the day they used to think you have your brain cells and that's it and use it or lose it and you can't teach an old dog new tricks, and then we learned that that's all wrong and that there are very specific parts of the brain that can actually generate new neurons that can then migrate to other parts of the brain and become new nerve cells. And that part of the brain is with us until the day we die. So the ability to regenerate our brain, it is, a fact. We can do that.
Wow. Well, I know you have questions you want to get to, but boy, I would love to know more about that. If there's anything you want to let us know about how we do that nutritionally or sleep wise or cold plunge wise, or I don't know if some of the things I'm doing now are helping that, but you tell me what I need to do in order to make more brain cells and neurons. And I think
Yeah.
that's the big one that I would like to know about.
Well, I think you're probably already doing the things because
Doing a lot.
a lot of the things that move the needle the most are the things that require our participation, like exercise, for example. And I know that's something that you are super into, but there's
Totally.
a lot of research on how important both weightlifting, strength building, squats, things like that help to promote the BDNF that helps with neuroplasticity. And so I think you're probably already doing a lot of the things that help to keep the brain healthy.
Totally. And I think I talked your ear off one time on the phone when we were just meeting each other. I had just finished a workout and there's something
You were
about
pumped up, yeah.
my gosh, I apologize. There's something about a heavy lift that gets rid of all of my symptoms and brings real focus. I'm really articulate and I have all kinds of energy. It's just magic. It does so many good things. Like heavy weights do so many good things. It's shocking how amazing it is. It's so medicinal.
Well, tell me about What is your diet like? What is your exercise routine like? What are the daily things that you're doing to protect your brain? Because you say that you actually feel like your brain health has improved rather than declining. It's actually gone the other direction.
Yeah, yeah, it has. There's 3 or 4 protocols that were the big, big, big needle movers for me. Oh, one is probably gonna be the transcranial photobiomodulation. And just the fact that I can say that, and I can say it that quickly is already an indication that the brain is coming around. Maybe that's why they named it like that. They wanted to make it a test so you could
It's a
see if
test.
you're getting good results. Anyway, I use the V-Lite, Neuro Pro 2, and, that is you look like the Borg from Star Trek: Next Generation. I remember the Borg, "We will assimilate you." You look like the Borg when it's on, but you're doing it in the privacy of your own house, so it doesn't hurt at all. It's red therapy that they've proven goes through the skull. They've done this with cadavers and, mimicked brain tissue inside the skull in the cadaver, and it gets to it, like, very comprehensively. Um, and, the most important thing, and I took some notes. The most important thing on the transcranial is noticing the difference. Okay. So, and I did this for Dr. Reza, who was one of their scientific guys over there. It took me 4 hours to set it up, and the fact that I was able to concentrate for those 4 hours to set it up after just using it 2 times with Dr. Reza, that told me a lot right there. Um, I got off social media. I realized that social media, I was actually addicted to the indignation that I was feeling when I was looking at the
Mm.
situation in my country, and that became like an angry adrenaline that just like any other adrenaline or dopamine or serotonin I was getting addicted to. I'm off social media. Um, I thought of making a list of things that needed to get done. I hadn't made a list in a long time. This was all in the first 2 weeks. My handwriting was getting faster and neater, and this one is a little crude, but we're talking about medicine here, and we're all adults, so I can say this because I know that this is actually important, and you might be able to speak to it. For the first time in 10 years, when I went to the bathroom, I could smell the results of the my bathroom, which I hadn't smelled in 10 years. So I know that there's something about smelling and, in the brain. And then recently, I picked up my guitar again. I'm playing guitar again, and I hadn't gone near my guitar since my diagnosis. So these are all things that if I wasn't taking notes, I might not notice. I might just think, oh, yeah, I play guitar. I've always played guitar. Oh, yeah, I can smell again. I've always been able to smell. Oh, yeah, my handwriting's fast. Like, unless you take the note when it comes to you, when you're doing it, like, oh my God, I haven't played guitar in 10 years, and here I am playing chords again. I'm really glad I'm taking the notes because I'm seeing what the red is doing. So that's V-Light. They've been that's been magic for me. The other one that's been magic is fasting. So I was listening to a podcast by a great guy, Tom DeLauer, and he was talking about intermittent fasting. And I was an early adopter of the intermittent fasting. And I remember walking, I can tell you exactly like it was yesterday. I was walking to Target. I was in the parking lot walking it. My hips were like sashaying, almost like in a feminine way. And I don't walk in a feminine way. It was just like strange to me. I'm like, why are my hips like doing this? And I realized they were opening up. My hips were opening up. And I've always had sciatica for like 20 years. I've had bad sciatica. So I researched why I didn't have the sciatica anymore. Why, like that pain was gone, and it has to do with inflammation. So not eating seemed to have prevented my body from inflaming. And whenever it's so scientific, it works so 100% of the time that if I'm taking a test or if I'm doing a show that I really need to be up for, if I'm producing a show or if I'm going to go do a fight on the road, I just won't even eat. Sometimes if it's just a weekend show, I just go and I'm like, okay, it's a 3-day fast because the risks of eating in brain fog, which that's when I get my brain fog is after I eat. I'm pretty sure I have leaky gut as well. When I can't, like if it's a live television show, like if I'm doing a big fight and it's on one of the big television networks, I can't have brain fog, so I just don't eat.
Right.
And it's amazing how well it works. It's amazing. And of course, I studied all about, the autophagy and the mitophagy and why not eating works so well, letting the body give it a chance to clean itself up. That's protocol 2 that has moved the needle. These are all things that cold plunging is my other big needle mover. And there's 4 needle movers, the cold plunge, and then the 4th needle mover is methylene blue. Methylene blue. And the joke on that one, and guys will probably relate to this. So I have a 15-year-old son, okay? And he's going to love me sharing this story. His pee stream, his urine stream, might as well be a laser. Might as well be a nuclear guided laser. It's like, what? You can hear the
An
water.
electric blue one?
Yeah. You can hear the water from on the other side of the house. His stream is so strong. And if we're at a game or something and he's at the urinal next to me, he finishes way before me, right? And I was so envious, of his stream because I know that's a real sign of health. But the methylene blue made me competitive again. You pee blue, but the stream gets really strong. And I researched why, and it's because it's a virus cleaner, it's a fungus cleaner, it's a yeast cleaner, bacteria cleaner. It's like a real antiseptic in the urethra, in the bladder. So all for guys, prostate, all that, everything, all the plumbing. It's cleans it all out. It's wonderful. So the methylene blue, but those are my big 4 that come to mind that have moved the needle. And there's probably 20 that were junk, absolute, slop, nothing, just money makers, people trying to sell you something online,
Mhm. Well, from a Chinese medicine background, we, this medicine is so old, and this was before there were any lab tests or scans, right? And so you would ask a ton of questions. And in Chinese medicine, they talk about the kidneys, and obviously the adrenals sit on top of the kidneys. So in Chinese medicine, we talk about kind of the kidney function. They would include all the functions of the adrenals as well. But as a standard intake for anybody, if you're a Chinese medicine practitioner, you are asking all kinds of questions about how powerful is your urine stream? Does your urine dribble? Do you have difficulty beginning? We would ask all of these detailed questions because the kidneys are our filters. And they're so important. And in the mainstream medicine, they don't ever pay attention to the kidneys until they're really, really shot.
Wow.
And now that we live in such a toxic environment where we are constantly exposed to air pollution and microplastics, and when we have inflammation in our brain, these cytokines and these chemokines, we have to flush those out, and we're often needing to flush them out through the kidneys. And so the kidneys have to be able to filter all of these inflammatory molecules. And especially when I had people that were very sick with COVID, and we were trying to get all this inflammation out of their body, if I didn't also support their kidneys would get so overburdened that people were actually getting kidney infections with COVID because their kidneys were overburdened by the amount of inflammatory molecules that were circulating, and they were trying to flush them out. And if those filters were essentially getting mucked up and couldn't handle the load of inflammatory chemicals, then their kidneys would get infected. And so I had to continuously explain to people why I had to put them on kidney support while we were trying to flush all the inflammation out. And when you paired those together, the results were so much better.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's something that we in the West don't have a good grasp of yet. You hear about it now. I think it's in the zeitgeist, it's in the consciousness, but we don't have a good sense of it. The whole detox thing. Because there's a bunch of shysters in that space too. And so it's you have to find you have to find the ones that are legit, find like saunas. right? They've done the studies on the saunas, and I can't remember who it was, but it was a real reputable MD had gone through some stats that they'd compiled. I believe it was Finland. They're big the sauna
Yes, they are.
country, and they've done it that you're increasing your chances of making it to 90 by like 50% when you do the sauna. Like it's some crazy statistic. Um, it fixes a lot of things. That's the hormetic stressors, right? Isn't that kind of what we're talking about here? Hormetic stressors.
For sure. And for some people, when they get concussions, they can have certain amounts of autonomic dysregulation that actually affect sweating. And so all of a sudden, you might have people that don't have normal sweating behavior, and our skin is our largest organ. It's one of the major detoxification organs of the body. So if we're not sweating and we're not releasing toxins through the skin, that's a real problem.
Right. Right. Yeah, it just feels good. It just feels good. Well, I'm trying to think if there's any other um hacks that are in the move the needle space. And that would be working out. I'm doing my other big one now is after I eat. I tried doing the vinegar before you eat, and I just can't do that one. But I do the walk. I can't do the vinegar, but I can do the walk after I eat, right? Get the glucose out of the blood and dump it into the muscle. And like you were talking about the big muscle groups, the glute and the quads, big glucose sponges. Pull that glucose right out of that blood. And so that's really double hack there. I'm doing real heavy squats now. And then walking out in the sun. I'm in Florida, so I can get my infrared and get my D and all my walking barefoot too. Shout out
Mhm.
to Gary Brecka for that one. Walking barefoot, for the grounding and for the magnetic benefits. So what would you do? I got to ask you a question. I can't help it. What's your protocol, doctor?
Oh my
What do
gosh.
you do
Well,
in the
I've
morning? What do
had
you eat?
yeah. So I myself have had 10 concussions, probably. Yeah. And
How
like
did you
you,
get that many concussions?
right. Well, like you, I mean, I was doing martial arts for probably 20, 23, 25 years. But many of my concussions were actually from snowboarding, mountain biking, wakeboarding, because when you're at high speed on a mountain bike or a snowboard and you crash, the ground is not very forgiving, even if you have a helmet on. And so I think compounded with the fact that I had had multiple concussions and I was still sparring and taking a lot of subconcussive hits to the head, I think that created a lot of inflammation. And like you were mentioning, the gut brain axis, a lot of leaky gut symptoms. So I found that for me, gluten I would feel like somebody had roofied me if I ate gluten. And so I had to go off of gluten. And then I realized that the same thing would happen if I ate oats or if I ate rice. And so then I had to go off oats and rice. And so for me, adopting a paleo diet, I had to get very, very strict on that in order to help my brain function. And then taking glutathione was like one of the things for me that really moved the needle as far as brain fog. So I used to suffer from a lot of brain fog, and now I rotate between different herbal formulas that help to support the glymphatic system in the brain and that are anti-inflammatory. They keep the microglia from being there's different expressions of microglia. You can have them in a anti-inflammatory state or a pro-inflammatory state. To try to make it really simple, they call it the M1 and the M2 states. And so there's different herbal formulas that I use that are helping to make sure that my microglia are not turned on and constantly creating inflammatory cytokines and promoting inflammation in the brain. So, like your experience of needing to be clear when you go into do commentary, I found that for me, these herbs and the glutathione were the things that, and cutting out a lot of the grains, those were the things that moved the needle the most for me in terms of not having brain fog.
Wow. Wow. And do you supplement with creatine monohydrate?
Um, on and off, I have.
So you pulse
I
it.
I have pulsed it. There was a point where I started to feel like I was getting a little too bulky, so I backed off. But because I think I have my dad's genes, and he was raised on a farm, and so my dad always had this like crazy strength, and so for me it was always easy to build muscle and to build strength. I mean, I'm 45 now, so it's not as easy it was when I was 20s or 30s, but uh, I do kind of bulk up easily, so.
I love it. I love it. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah, but
There's right now there's a million women saying, "Oh, what a bad problem to have. You can build muscle easily. I feel so bad for you."
well, I got so frustrated because there was a period of time where I got really into road biking, and so I would go on these very long road bikes where I had to have been burning tons and tons and tons of calories, but what happened? My legs exploded. I had like, giant road cyclist thighs and none of my pants fit, and I was pissed. I was
That
like,
is
screw
so
this.
funny.
Screw this. I'm just going to do hot yoga.
That's so funny. But, you know, that it's interesting. It's good though for you to build those legs because those, like we're saying, they're the big sponge, right? They're gonna sponge. Isn't that better to do that than the hot yoga is great. I get it. It's good for you, but it's not really gonna build muscle, right?
Well, I think for me, the combination of doing CrossFit and cardio and hot yoga is kind of my trifecta of working on my cardio, working on my strength, working on the cardio helps with my engine, and then doing the strength building, and then having to also stay limber because when I would just do weightlifting and CrossFit, I would get really stiff and tight. And so the hot yoga gives me a nice sweat, but I also feel like the yoga is almost my zone 2 workout because when you're in the heat, your heart rate is elevated. And so I feel like I get a really nice kind of zone 2 workout with the yoga, and I work on my flexibility because I'm not a flexible person. And so it just kind of it helps me with all the other things.
Yeah, yeah, I get it. I get it.
Well, going back to the fighters for a minute, what do you think does need to change in the combat sports world for there to be better actual recovery protocols?
I can speak to a couple things, but obviously I can't speak to any of the medical things that would need to change. But one of the things that we're talking about doing is taking V Light on tour, especially with some of my boxing properties. And for instance, we have properties in the Southwest in LA, New Mexico, Arizona, and Texas, and they're all boxing shows. And so we're talking about when a fighter, God forbid, gets knocked out, getting that Neuro Pro on them right away. And it's a big win-win. The first win is that we help save that fighter's brain. And then the second win is I have a feeling we're going to get a lot of people saying, "What the hell is that? What are you doing to the fighter? What are you putting on his head?" And so that'll give us a really good opportunity to explain V-Light and explain the importance of transcranial photobiomodulation, explaining just how important that is to do it really, really quickly after an injury.
Or
And so,
maybe every fighter just gets a V light to have and use on a regular basis.
yes, good point. Good point. I know, oh, you know what? I don't know if it's public, so I can't say, but I could tell you that V-Light is working with an extremely famous fighter in the UFC on an upcoming fight that's going to be a very, very, very famous fight. That's if I say any more, you're gonna know who I'm talking about. So we'll probably, depending on what we're able to put together with him, we're hoping to take him on tour with us, and he can explain what he does because he's had V Light forever, and he just like you said, he does it all the time, and the importance of before the fight can't be exaggerated, and the importance of after the fight can't be exaggerated. And so that's kind of my mission now. I'm pretty uni focused on this one mission, and that's getting the awareness of V light and the importance of infrared um, into everybody's consciousness. Everybody in the fight space needs to know about this. And there's thousands of fight schools. They should all have the V light. There's thousands of hospitals, athletic commissions. Think of all the different sports, all the different teams, anything where you're running around and, sounds to me like you were an adrenaline junkie. I was to a
Yes.
certain degree, not as much as you were, but I was to a certain degree as well. And just think of all these, how everyone's throwing their bodies around, and really everyone should have one of these. It should be like in your first aid kit, like anything else. Any other injury you've first aid kit for, right? You have something in the first aid kit for.
Well, and I have people that come into my clinic all the time and they say, I hear that red light is good. Should I buy one of these panels? And my answer is always no. If your number one goal is to do something to support your brain health, you need to get the light directly on the scalp and intranasally. And so, no, you don't want to just stand in front of a panel. You need it as close to your head as possible. And so I think there's still a lot of confusion in the market when it comes to red light therapy. There are a lot of junk devices out there, and I think people are like, well, do I get a panel? Do I get a light pad? Do I lay in a light bed? Like, what do I do? The thing that
Yeah.
I always come back to is, what is your number one goal? If your number one goal is to improve brain health, you got to get it on your head and up your nose and have it be the right type of device that actually is effective.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I was very, at first it was very interesting. Like, why, what the heck? Why are you putting these things up the nose? And it looked very strange. Again, you come back to the Borg on, on Star Trek, if you want to know what it looks like. Uh, and when they explained it, when Dr. Reza explained it, that is the up the nose is the closest to the brain. And so you have that, you can shoot that red right onto the brain, up the nose. Obviously, it doesn't hurt at all. And so once I knew what that was for, I was a convert. Oh, I mean, I get this red therapy even more effectively on my brain. Absolutely. And that's,
Well, and the beneficial side effect is you can now smell what's in the toilet.
yeah, I know. It's like one of those things like that. I don't know if I'm going to count that as a benefit because you don't necessarily want to smell that, but it actually was. This will sound weird. That was like the first time my scent, the ability to smell, came back, and even though it's a smell that's generally not liked, that's not how I reacted to it because it was actually beautiful in a way. Like it
Well,
was
did
like.
you then notice that you could smell food better as well? Like, did that transfer it over to
It's
understanding?
coming
Oh,
around.
wow.
It's right now, it's
Okay.
just strong smells. Right now, it's just
Okay.
strong. So it's definitely coming. My daughter was doing some nail polish, and that made my head actually jump back. So my brain definitely doesn't like nail polish, but I was still grateful that I could smell it. So the two ones that I've noticed so far in the bathroom and the nail polish, and then in the kitchen, sometimes I can smell a little food, depending on the food, if it's strong enough. I can smell garlic, cloves. And then I heard, and tell me if this is accurate. I saw something about essential oils, and there are certain essential oils that you should smell every day, and it wakes up that part of the brain that's so important, the getting your scent back, get the ability to smell back. Do you know anything about that?
Especially when everybody was losing their sense of smell with COVID, there was a lot more focus on using scent therapy to try to restore smell. And so there are these smelling kits that you can buy. And so they'll have like a lemon and a rose and a eucalyptus. And so the smells go straight into the hippocampus, which is one of the areas where we have one of those special parts of the brain that can create new neurons. And so
Whoa.
smell is very important. And sometimes by using those different essential oils, you can help to bring smell back.
And the kits do different fragrances, different smells, wake up or stimulate different parts of the brain?
What's interesting with smell is that it goes through multiple different pathways, but like the one of the direct pathways is right into the hippocampus where we have our ability to form memories, which is why people can say like walk into a house and there's a smell in that house and it might immediately bring them back to something from childhood, or like like I had a huge lilac bush outside my bedroom window when I was a kid, and so every time the lilacs bloom, as soon as I smell lilac, it just like brings me back to the house I grew up in as a kid. And it's because that our smell is so closely linked to that hippocampus, which is our where the part of the brain that allows us to form memory.
Wow. So, would you recommend just going and go ahead and get essential oils, or should I get the kit because it has much more of a range of different types of fragrances?
I think the kit is a great way to go because it's specifically designed to kind of help restore smell.
Got it.
I'll send you some links.
Oh, great. Please do. Yeah, I would. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I'm very interested in doing that. I try everything, right? Like when stuff breaks, you're not in the play zone anymore. You try things like, okay, I'm all hands on deck. So I try it, and if it works, it becomes a needle mover. It's in the
Yeah.
rotation, you know?
Well, and they did some interesting studies with people with Alzheimer's and their ability to smell peanut butter. And they found, because with both Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, a loss of smell is a big part of that. And so they were actually measuring the distance at which somebody should be able to smell peanut butter.
Got it so far. That
Okay,
might be
good.
it. Weirdly, I have a jar of peanut butter on my desk.
I know that we did not plan that.
We did not plan it. We
We
did
did
not
not
plan that.
plan that. Okay,
I can
that's
smell it
hilarious.
close. I can't smell it far away. Is that bad?
Yeah. Well, so the people with Alzheimer's, I wanna say they when it was like they had to smell it really up close, but you should be able to smell it about 17 centimeters away, if I'm remembering correctly.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll be
How
your
far is
goal.
that? Is that like this far? How far is that?
There's 2.5 centimeters in an inch.
Okay, so woo,
I mean, don't
34.
quote me on that, but
That's a yardstick. Wow, a yardstick. I have some work to do. I have some work to do.
when the wildfires were really bad in the summertime, on any given day, the majority of my patients that are coming in are suffering from some kind of neurological issue. And so when the smoke was so thick in the air outside, every time somebody would come in, I would ask them, I'm like, "Oh, is the wildfire smoke still bad outside?" And it was fascinating because some people would say, "Oh, yeah, it's terrible." And other people would say, "Oh, no, I can't smell it at all." And it was, so I was like using that as a test to ask people because I knew it was bad. I mean, it smelled like a campfire outside, and you'd have people coming in saying, "No, no, I can't smell it. It's not bad." And I go, "Ooh, that's
Whoa.
not good. That's not good."
Whoa.
Yeah. I mean, breathing it in is not good either, but not being able to smell it is definitely a clear sign
Right.
of somebody not having their smell intact.
Right. I'm so getting that kit. So the diagnosis is neurological ischemia. And I've told you the hacks that I'm doing: heavy weights, methylene blue, cold plunging. These are all done very ritually. I'm very disciplined. Um, Trying to do an anti-diabetic diet, mostly like you, paleo. I do carbs as a treat before a workout and after a workout, to help my insulin a little bit, help my explosiveness. I noticed that when I try to go all paleo, I get junky, I get lethargic, I get almost opposite what it says it's going to do. It makes me feel weak. It makes me feel brain foggy, almost catabolic. It's like the
Well,
carbs they feel anabolic to me, you know?
and you can do carbs on paleo, but a lot of it, if you're trying to do whole foods, the carbs are coming from things like sweet potatoes or butternut squash, or you're getting carbs from those types of sources rather than the breads and the pastas and the cookies and the donuts. But some people maybe when they go paleo, they're eating too many fats and protein and not enough carbs from those healthy sources.
And that you also get the fiber when you do those too, like sweet potatoes, you're getting phytonutrients, you're getting fiber, you're getting a slow starch. There's just, there's so many good things to do, and I wanna do the best ones, you know? I wanna do the ones that are really that will like, the smell thing, man, that was scary to me, you know, that as soon as I moved the peanut butter away, I had nothing. And that was the first thing that went on me, that was the first thing. That left me, like, 10 years ago.
Hmm.
The brain fog was what brought it to my attention. Brain fog is what made me say, "What the hell is wrong with me?" You know? Have you been able to mitigate all of your stuff with all of your concussions? Is your protocol working for you?
I feel like I have, yeah. I actually hit my head last March, and I had 10 days of concussion symptoms. I had, headaches, I had definitely, like, severe light sensitivity, and I was doing every single day red light therapy. I was doing my PEMF device on my head. I
That's the
upped some of
beamer?
my herbs. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And within 10 days, all those symptoms went away. And so for me, it was proof that after already having 9 concussions, I could get a 10th concussion and have acute symptoms that actually went away in the expected window of time, which is 7 to 10 days. So they say 2 weeks. They say, 2 weeks is kind of the window which you would want somebody to recover. And so I felt like that was really proof of concept that every single thing I've done up until this point for my brain has gotten me to a point where I can get my 10th concussion, have symptoms that very clearly indicated, yeah, you were dizzy, you were nauseous, you had light sensitivity, you were having headaches, and within 10 days all that's gone.
Wow. Wow.
But I also I do neuro rehab with my patients every single day, and so just by virtue of showing them different exercises, I'm actually also doing the neuro rehab with them, and so all day
Interesting.
long, I'm doing different, like, eye movements and different balance things, and I'm demonstrating things to people, and so even just on a daily basis, I feel like I'm also kind of almost getting some therapy in the process of demonstrating all these exercises to everybody else, and
Right.
so as funny as that sounds, like, that's actually helped me too.
I love it. I love it. That's great. That's great. Like, when when I'm thinking of retiring, I'm in my mid-60s now, and thinking like, would I keep working? And if so, what would I do? And I think about that. What would I do? And I realize what I would do. I want to help people. I want people to learn what I've learned in terms of saving your own life. I thought I would probably train people in the gym because that's where I am happiest. I'm happiest in the
Mhm.
gym. And so I would probably do that as like a side hustle, if you will. And and get to watch people. I'm sure this is what happens in your practice. You get to watch people turn things around, and that must be so fulfilling and so rewarding.
Yeah, my CrossFit gym has a longevity class, and most people, when they think CrossFit, they think, "Oh, yeah, that's like that really, really hard stuff," right? But they have a longevity class for people in their 60s and 70s because everything you do in CrossFit can be scaled. And I think the most rewarding thing would be as a coach to be able to see people coming in who feel like they can't jump and they can't squat and they can't row, and then to see them learn that their bodies can do all these things and to see them improve their mobility and their strength and their cardio. I do think that that would just be incredibly rewarding every day to
Yes.
come in and see people improve their fitness on all those different levels.
And the other element, doctor, that I realized that I forgot to touch upon, and it just came forward when you were saying that. When I started doing all these different things, and you start getting a grip on your health again, you start getting your brain back, and you start feeling hope. And you, for me, it's making me do things that I used to do that I enjoy. Like I believe it or not. I like meditation. And, I used to go to these really when I lived in Cali, I used to go to these really cool, like, Buddhist retreats, and, it was all about getting control of your mind, and not that you can control your thoughts, but you can control your reactions to your thoughts and become more the observer, like the dispassionate, neutral observer of these millions of thoughts that are gonna come and go no matter what. That's monkey mind. That you never stop that, right? That's gonna come. But doing getting into, was it the guy who wrote Atomic Habits? Getting in these habits and doing them every single day, and you start getting more and more light. You know, we were talking about the infrared light, V light, and I almost thought if I ever do another podcast and it's more around um, biohacks than it is around combat sports, I might call it See the Light. It's kind of a cool name, See the Light. And realizing that, man, we are just batteries, right? Like, the more I study, the more I realize we're just batteries. We're big conglomeration of mitochondria. And give it its water, give it its magnesium, give it its electrolytes, give it its sun, let it charge up, let your battery charge. But what comes forward is happiness. Like,
Mhm.
I'm happy that as a human, I like moving the needle. We talked about moving the needle. What moves the needle? Moving the needle feels good. And Buddha might say progress is an illusion because, like, where are you going anyway, right? Like, you think you're progressing. Where are you going? There's nowhere to go, dude. You and I right now. This is it. That's it. This is the day. This is all we have is just today. That's all we have. So where are you going, dude? But within the
Well,
realm of what's that?
just like they say that, you practice Buddhism, you also practice taking care of your body. It's all just a
Yes.
practice. Even if we're not going anywhere, we're practicing
Yes. We're
the things that
practicing.
keep us feeling light and happy.
Yes. That's it. And nothing more, nothing less than that. It doesn't have to be anything more. You're not you're not getting anywhere. You're not going to be some magic day. Okay, now I have my health and my happiness and this and this and this and this. That day does, at least in my experience in 65 years, you don't have those big cathartic days. You might have little movements, right? Little move the needle here, you get a little buzz here, or it could be a good sized movement. But then the next day, this too shall pass. You can be right back down low again. That's the other thing too, is just like it's it's a it's a peaceful feeling practicing. That's that really is the takeaway. You're right, it's the practice. It's the practice.
Mhm.
The practice
Yeah.
itself.
It's what allows you to navigate the ups and the downs, really.
I like it.
Well, I think that's a great note to end on.
Yeah. I like it. We wrapped it up with a nice bow and tied it up. It's the practice. Practice taking care of yourself. Not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually, you know? And then realizing today's the only day, choosing how you react, choosing how you respond. You've seen the beauty, you realize how precious this is, man. This is precious.
With everything you now know about brain health, do you have a hard time watching the fights?
Strangely, I don't. I've got that ability to disconnect. Um,
Mhm.
First off, and maybe I'm rationalizing it, but the fighters have chosen. Everybody knows now the risks. There's no naivete about that anymore. We talked about that evolution where everybody knows the risk. So they're making an adult decision. It's a free world. It's a free country. So they're doing it. They want to do it. It's not going to stop. The only thing we can do now is to mitigate and find workarounds. But I don't have problems watching the fights. I don't have problems commentating the fights. Um, I'm blown away at the bravery these men and women exhibit walking into the cage. And, it inspires me.
Mhm. Yeah. as somebody who has trained in MMA, I haven't fought, but I've trained. When you actually are training, when you watch these elite level fighters, that's you really then know just how ridiculously skilled they are because
I
I
know.
think they
I
sometimes
know.
they just make it look so easy transitioning, and people who haven't actually trained and practiced those moves and done the work and know what it feels like, I think it's easy to just say like, oh yeah, I could do that. But no, like the skill level these people are at is insane. It's
I know.
insane.
Cracks me up when you see these beer muscle guys are in the bar and they see a famous fighter and they start trash talking him like, you're not so tough. Like, I don't see what you're half my size. I don't see why you're the big fighting star, whatever. And these guys will never fight him. These famous fighters will never fight. First off, they're like, I get paid to fight. I'm not going to fight you for free. I get paid to fight. I'm a professional fighter. But secondly, it's just mortifying, like, the difference. Like, I'm in a Ferrari and you're in a Volkswagen Bug and you're challenging me to a race. It's like, why would I like, you don't even get on the track with me, buddy. Well, thank you.
Oh my gosh, this was great. Thank you.
Great
I'll
to
let you
meet
know
you.
when this is out.
Yeah, please do. I don't have to edit. I don't have to do any editing.
You're done.